Season 6 of Doctor Who, The Dominators. Arc 1 of 7. Cool. Hey everyone, and welcome to Arc Thoughts for Doctor Who Season 6. Basically, is going to continue talking about each arc as they come up. And the first arc of Season 6 is known as The Dominators. Basically, the Doctor and crew find themselves on the planet Dulcinea, I believe. A very peaceful, friendly planet that the Doctor has been to before, and actually is excited to explore. Because the Dulcinians are a very peaceful people, and yeah, so it's supposed to be a good time. Unfortunately, however, the Doctor and crew have landed on a deserted island that is unfortunately known for its radiation. You see, this island used to be the test site for radioactive materials, and, well, you do enough radioactive stuff somewhere, it's going to get irradiated eventually. So, yeah, there's a clear and present danger, of going outside the TARDIS because, hey, radiation kills. But, strangely, the radiation levels on this island have been dropping, and, actually, before they have to exit the TARDIS, have dropped completely. That is because there are some alien invaders who have come to the planet of Dulcinea, known as the Dominators. And basically, they have a plan to, for some odd reason, capture Dulcinians and use them as slave labor in this area, working towards some sort of drilling operation. Quick spoilers for the story. The basic idea is that they are trying to refuel their fleet of ships that are up in orbit, and to do this, they unfortunately have a plan that will ultimately destroy the planet. Basically dropping like a nuclear payload into the Earth's core that will cause eruptions and radiation that will destroy the planet, but also release radiation, which is somehow absorbed into their ship, which powers their ships. It's odd, but it makes sense. First off, I thought this arc was interesting because, these bad guys are very serious bad dudes. Like, they're very harsh, very cruel, and the Dulcinians, unfortunately, are very passive, peaceful people who have pretty much philosophers, basically. They will talk about issues at great length because they want to make sure they make the right decision rather than, oh, hey, jumping in, making the wrong decision, and bad things happen. Unfortunately, whenever you've got, the peaceful tribe versus the tribe of warriors who are just going to conquer you and take whatever they want, you kind of have a lack of balance there. And I like this arc because it addresses that. The Dulcinians meet with their council, they try to plan out something to do about the situation, but yeah, it's kind of hard to deal with somebody who's, shoot first, ask questions later, and take what I want because I am more powerful than you. And I like exploring that idea because, peace is definitely something nice and worthwhile. However, there is always the possibility that someone out there isn't going to be so peaceful, so some military presence is always going to be needed. Military, police, etc. So, just something to bear in mind. I'm not saying peace is bad, but yeah. It's not as black and white as just, hey, everybody agrees to not fight and we're good. An interesting arc, I would say. I like this because we had a bit of growth with Jamie as well. Basically, at one point, Jamie's kind of on his own and has to use his experience fighting the Redcoats back in the 1800s of Scotland to help offset, to help tip the balance in the fight, because basically it's Jamie and one guy versus a bunch of, two Dominators and like 8 or 9 robots that are Dalek-like. So, yeah, that was cool. We got to see some of Zoe's, scientific expertise, you know, whenever she and the Doctor are exploring the ship, trying to figure out, okay, how does this ship run, and what can we do to slow them down, and da-da-da. So that was good also. We had some good bits of comedy, which I've recorded, and I hope to share, hopefully on my Facebook at some point. And, yeah, like, an interesting arc. It was kind of, it was kind of a take or to leave it for long-term stuff arc, but I enjoyed it. I thought it was interesting. The bad guys were good. You know, the Dulcinians were interesting. It's just interesting all around, and definitely worth a watch, I would say, for sure. And also, really quick, just a small thing. Later, towards the end of the arc, the Doctor breaks out the sonic screwdriver again. And essentially, we're just getting the, like, I'm just getting the impression they're exploring, hey, we can make this kind of the multi-tool. Because those of more modern Doctor Who are probably already aware that, hey, the sonic screwdriver is kind of a big deal in the Doctor Who universe. So, I like they're exploring and tinkering with it, because basically the Doctor uses it this time instead of, you know, looking at pipes and going, oh, hey, there's something up with this, more as like a torch for cutting. So it's interesting. Again, it's not a big deal, but, you know, looking at this long term and thinking about it, I thought it was noteworthy. So anyway, that is The Dominators, the first arc of Season 6 of Doctor Who. The final season of Patrick Troughton, the second Doctor. Arc Thoughts, Episode 2, The Mind Robber. Hey everyone, and welcome to the next episode of Arc Thoughts for Season 6. The story here actually follows right on the heels of the end of the Dominators arc. The Doctor and crew were on the island, the volcano was erupting, and, well, they had to escape because lava flow is fatal. If you didn't know that, clearly. But, they get inside the TARDIS, the lava is flowing, and unfortunately there's a technical issue with the TARDIS at that point. The Doctor and Dr. Jamie and Zoe work to do what they can to fix the problem, but they can't. So they have to break out an emergency attachment, we'll say, that basically allows the TARDIS to jump the dimensional track. So basically, it leaves the world of reality and goes somewhere else. And that is the story for this 5-episode arc. The first episode is entirely dedicated to, I don't know where, honestly. Basically the gist is, on the video screen, the scanner, Jamie and Zoe see different things that they want to see. Basically their homes. You know, Jamie's Scotland, and Zoe sees her hometown. They wander out, they're set upon by robots, they get back into the TARDIS, and they take off. And then the actual story starts. Because, like, this arc is just crazy and essentially on drugs, I would say. Because just so much weird stuff just keeps happening. Like, I'm not even kidding. They get back in the TARDIS, they activate it, they take off, and we are shown the TARDIS exploding. Yeah. You know, Jamie and Zoe are hanging on to the central console, and the Doctor has, unfortunately, like, just disappeared somewhere into space. However, things are alright, because they all come back to some place. And unfortunately, they're separated, and they're put into different traps and have to deal with different things. It's a really weird, messed up arc, and honestly, I can't describe all of it, because it's just crazy. So, definitely, I would say it's worth a watch if you're into some weird, I'd honestly say it mirrors Alice in Wonderland. In that they go into this place of nonsense, and just all this crazy stuff happens. Though one of the big things that I want to point out is this is some kind of world of fiction with a writer from the year 1926 at the controls, and it's just some crazy stuff. So a couple of quick shout-outs that I want to give. First off, to a gentleman known as Hamish Wilson. He played Jamie temporarily in this arc. Because, you see, and this is where the crazy drug stuff comes in. Pay attention. Jamie is on his own at one point, sees a British soldier, a redcoat, and goes to attack him with his knife, and is shot. Now, instead of dying, he turns into a literal cardboard cutout. The doctor eventually finds this and tries to put together Jamie's face again with pieces on a board next to Jamie, and he doesn't do it right. So, unfortunately, Jamie's face is not quite normal, and he changes appearances to Hamish Wilson. So it's a cool, like, mind-trippy thing, but there's logic behind it in that apparently Fraser Hines had fallen ill with the chicken pox for the 2 weeks. And so, for episodes 2 and 3, the actor is Hamish Wilson. Another interesting thing is they come across honestly, my assessment was some sort of sailor or explorer who just seems to be talking in different phrases, different selected phrases, as if he was from some literary work. Quick spoiler alert, it's Gulliver from Gulliver's Travels, I have to assume. They don't mention travels, but they say the name Gulliver. And then the final confrontation the Doctor has with the Master, not the Master, the Time Lord, the Master of Fiction. There's a difference, and trust me, hearing just the Master, it's just funny and it made me laugh. But, yeah, the final confrontation is basically a battle of wills between the Doctor and the Master of Fiction. And I honestly put in one of my statuses, I saw some parallels between this and the Futurama episode, The Day the Earth Stood Stupid, wherein Fry is the selected human being who's supposed to stand up to the, I forget the name of them, but basically they're floating brains. And the ultimate battlefield is, traveling through literary works. And, yeah, though I have to say, Doctor Who did it more intellectually. Also, they're on a different plane of existence and just a bunch of other stuff. So, definitely, I would say if you're into some crazy, weird stuff, The Mind Robber is definitely interesting. In terms of long-term, there's no way in hell this is going to be long-term stuff. And really quick, another thing, I would say this is like the Toy Maker, I believe. He was one of the bad guys from season 3. Yeah, season 3 that William Hartnell faced off against. Basically, he had his own little fictional world with all these different games and stuff. And yeah. So, like, for real, I'm liking this. Hey, we're, leaving reality and we're going somewhere else and dealing with things. So, yeah. So, The Mind Robber. If you're interested in crazy stuff, check it out. I felt like it was totally 100% worth the watch. Hey everyone, and welcome to Arc Thoughts, The Invasion. Doctor Who, Season 6. Alright, everybody. Well, first off, I want to say, thankfully, The Invasion is a return to more normal things than The Mind Robber was, which was, it was weird and messed up, and I don't know how else to describe it. But this, was definitely a more normal thing. So, the Doctor and crew find themselves in modern-day London again. So, like, 1960s-ish. Basically, they have to stop because there is some issue with the circuits within the TARDIS. So they have to go out and hopefully find somebody that can help them out with fixing it. They plan to talk with Dr. Travers from the Abominable Snowman and the, God, I forget the other one. But whatever, anyway. Basically a character they've interacted with before. So they set out to get back to London and talk with him. And, yeah, they learn about some interesting things going on within London. For instance, the rise of the corporation known as International Electromatics. Basically, just like a giant electronics corporation that is selling pretty much everything from, small transistor radios to bigger, like, computer electronics and other things. headed by one Tobias Vaughn. Unfortunately, it seems like there's something not quite good going on behind the scenes with the corporation and Mr. Vaughn. And they get to meet up with, the crew meets up with an old ally, Colonel Lethbridge Stewart. Except, there are two major differences now. Number one, he's been promoted to Brigadier. Oh, and he is also part of the long-standing group known as UNIT, the United Nations International Task Force. Now, from what I've heard, UNIT is like kind of a big deal, so this is very noteworthy for that. So, UNIT, the invasion, headed by Brigadier Lethbridge Stewart, just saying that it's very noteworthy. And so they work together to get into international electromatics and figure out what's going on. And yeah, like there's a lot to address here, so I'm going to try and do it as fast as I can. First off, one of the big things I want to say is, honestly, in my opinion, this is probably the best arc that I have seen yet for the series. It has good mystery, great villain, interesting suspense, as I noted below there. It's spread across 8 episodes, if I recall. So, like, they actually have the time to develop the story. Like I've noted once or twice in the past, it felt kind of forced, some of the conclusions. But here, it's spread out and they do a good job. Now, the great suspense is, basically at the end of a lot of the episodes, there's a good little cliffhanger thing. Like, oh no, we're facing off with these bad guys and they're about to kill us. How are they going to get out of it? Think like 1960s Batman. So that was a good reason to keep going from episode to episode. The great mystery was Tobias Vaughn uses a device to speak with some otherworldly characters. We don't find out who they are until, I believe it's episode 5 of the arc. And it's cool because, we're given little clues and hints like, oh, you've dealt with the Doctor before and he's not of this world, and just other things to give us like, okay, these are bad guys that we've dealt with before. And currently we have 2 major bad guys. We have the Daleks and we have the Cybermen. I don't want to spoil who it is, but let's just say if you Google Doctor Who episode guide, you're going to, find the page, you're going to go to season 6, and you're going to see who it is. And I'm kind of disappointed with them for that. But what are you going to do? Although, also, I probably will spoil it later anyway. But, yeah. So we had that good bit of mystery until the 5th episode. And even then, it's still very cool and interesting. And actually, really quick, going back to suspense, one of the other big things that I really like is, the final bit. Not a lot actually happens, but it has the most stressful 12.5 minutes. Not real time, thank goodness. But just like, oh no, like, in 12 minutes, either we'll have succeeded, or we will be dead. I don't want to spoil it, but it was a cool little bit, and I really enjoyed it. And, yeah, I'm not sure what else to really say. So I'm going to start making some small comparisons that I noted. For instance, the invasion, I felt like, had some similarities to Season 2, the Dalek invasion of Earth. Except in that instance, the Daleks had already come to Earth and conquered everything, whereas the Doctor and crew were here from the get-go with the invasion, and were able to do what they could to prevent it. So, that is a very positive thing, I want to say. And last time with the Daleks, it was the Daleks. This time, it's another group. And I even said this on Facebook and Twitter, but, like, this felt like, with all the subtle clues of, oh, we've dealt with the Doctor before and he must be destroyed. This felt like, okay, round 2, guys. We're coming to your place and we're going to take your shit. And, yeah. Like, I love this arc. It was awesome. It was interesting. It is definitely, I feel like, one of the major highlights of Patrick Troughton's time as the Doctor. So, if you don't see much of the second Doctor, or the classic era. At the very least, check this out. Welcome to Arc Thoughts 4 of 7, the Crotons. And tellurium is an element, like literally an element on the periodic table. It comes up. Cool. Hey everybody, and welcome to Arc Thoughts. Today's episode is about the arc known as the Crotons, the 4th of 7 arcs in Season 6. Really quick, I want to say that the arc isn't bad, but it doesn't have a lot of substance, so honestly, just right off the bat, I would say it's skippable. And, well, I would leave it at that and make a joke, but no, I'm trying to do this seriously. So, the basic story is that the first episode begins with a strange ceremony. A small tribe of people are gathered together in a cave near some sort of weird machine, and 2 people are called out as being worthy of joining the Crotons. Basically, we learn that this society takes tests that are handed down by these beings known as the Crotons, and then the 2 who score the highest at regular intervals are sent to be with the Crotons, and then are never seen again, unfortunately. Well, the Doctor and crew end up on the planet, and luckily they find one of the people, who went in, exiting the machine, and see that person get vaporized. Like, literally turned to dust. A second person is sent through a bit later on, and luckily they are able to save this person. And basically, it just becomes, a short mystery on figuring out who the Crotons are, why they're doing this, and yeah. And the reason I say it's, skippable and just very meh is because it's only 4 episodes long, so you got a lot of stuff to do in 4 episodes. And honestly, the final episode just has a big exposition dump on, like, okay, here's why we're doing this. And it's just very... it's just very, hey, we didn't think to make them, dramatically cool or anything like that. And it's kind of a drop-off in coolness from what we had with the invasion. So, they didn't do a bad job with this one, but honestly, there is absolutely nothing, in my opinion, that is worthy of note for the future. So, honestly, I would just say skip this arc. Sorry to say that, but hey, that's how I feel. Seeds of Death. Cool. Everyone, and welcome to Arc 5 of 7. The Seeds of Death. First off, I want to say, this was definitely a good arc. 6 episodes, and not quite as good as the invasion was, but definitely a noteworthy arc. And depending on whether or not you like the Ice Warriors, it might be worth a watch, is basically what it boils down to. Plot, story, everything like that definitely checks out, but like, again, if you don't care for the Ice Warriors, you can skip them. So what is the story? Well, the story is this takes place on Earth sometime in the future. Basically, we figured out how to dematerialize and rematerialize things, across the globe. Or to put it basically, we have teleporters now that can transport both goods and people. So, like, literally, let's say you're in New York and you need to go to Hong Kong or London or... okay, I can't remember any of the other major cities that they use, but basically, you can hop into, like, a telephone booth-sized, device, and then a controller at the station goes, okay, here, we're going to send you to London, ... And, they explore a bit with this concept because, with the ability to transport easily across the world, why would we invest in other things, like, bullet trains, cars, rockets, etc.? Well, unfortunately, this system isn't entirely perfect, in that there is a relay on the moon. Yes, the moon. The orbiting body that controls the waves and gravity and a few other things on the planet. And if I got anything wrong, my bad. I'm not a scientist. I'm an investigator. But anyway, something seems to have gone awry up on the moon base. In that, the Ice Warriors have shown up and have threatened the crew up there, and some have rebelled against them, basically disabling the relay system up there. And unfortunately, without that relay system in place, they can't work the system that is known as Travel Mat, which is the teleporting and all that stuff. So, so the Travel Mat group down on Earth has to figure a way to get up to the moon, see what's going on, and hopefully address the situation. And, well, since we haven't really worked on rockets or anything like that, it's like, we're really in a tight spot here. However, conveniently, the current head is friends with a gentleman who's curating over a museum that has, you know, some old rockets and other things, and he's actually kept one built up because, hey, we might need something in an emergency. And, well, the Doctor and crew get tangled up in the mess, have to go to the moon base, deal with the Ice Warriors, deal with the situation. And, and there is a bit more that goes on as well. Because the Ice Warriors, if you remember from the Ark, the Ice Warriors, they are from the planet Mars. And, spoilers for that Ark, they were defeated through turning up the air conditioning within the building so that it went from, you know, nice, calm, cool temperatures to, like, probably 80, 90 degrees. Basically, their bodies weren't built for that, coming from Mars, which is further from the sun, which is colder, which is da-da-da. And, yeah. And, well, much like the invasion, it felt like, you know, the Ice Warriors were going, okay, round 2, we're going to take London. And, honestly, like, the story works, because, and again, minor spoilers here, but, one of the Ice Warriors comes down to the planet at one point when we have T-Mat set up again, you know, and lays the groundwork for, you know, trying to turn the planet more like Mars, because at this point in the future, we also have weather control, and that, hey, you know, it's too hot and humid, so we're going to make it like a nice, balmy 60, 70 degrees, so everybody can enjoy it. And, yeah. And so, you know, it makes me wonder, okay, what makes this arc better than the Crotons? Well, first off, you know, we have bad guys who are coming down and who are motivated and are doing something. Yes, in the other arc, you know, they were slowly working towards something. And, you know, I guess working for something like over thousands of years or hundreds of years can be a bit boring and less engaging. But I think also it's just the fact that, you know, these bad guys are active. They're doing something. They're not just pulling the Wizard of Oz thing of, oh, I've got all the power and I'm hiding behind this curtain and you can't see me and you have to do whatever I say. Like, and also they just didn't have, also we had established these characters already and they were not great, but at least they were something. They were tangible. You know, the Crotons were just robots inside of a machine that were just, hey, do what we say or we will destroy you. And, like, I don't know. It was... The Crotons, I felt, was a bit rushed at points. Like, at the very end, they had a big exposition dump. Here, we at least knew all the players. You know, we had clear goals. And, honestly, it worked better. So, overall, in the long run, it might not be as prevalent. Unless, of course, the Ice Warriors are big, you know, as the series goes on. And I have seen with, with Capaldi, they at least make an appearance again. So, maybe the Ice Warriors are another big bad guy. So they might be up on the board with Daleks and Cybermen and Weeping Angels, which I haven't met yet. So, Seeds of Death. It's an entertaining arc. For the long term, I honestly couldn't say at this point, but definitely not worth... I mean, definitely worth a watch if you're interested. Though if you're trying to rush through everything, you can skip it. So, yeah. That is the story. And then really quick, just the iconic Seeds of Death. Basically is that the Ice Warriors, using T-Mat when it's up and running again, send down these strange spheres that launch out what I'm just going to call anti-air vegetation, in that these things explode and spread polyps or pollen, you know, that basically just take out all the air in an area. And their idea was that they would use this to, again, take all the to kill the planets by taking all the air away from the Earth, making it more like Mars. So yeah, it's interesting stuff. Arc Thoughts, Season 6, Arc 6 of 7, The Space Pirates. The last arc that was lost to time, and the arc that cinched Zoe as #1 companion, at least in practicality. Hey everyone, and welcome to Arc Thoughts for The Space Pirates. The 6th arc of Season 6. And, like I said, one of the last arcs that was lost to time, thank goodness. Basically, really quick, if you don't know, the BBC lost some of the episodes within the first 5 to 6 seasons of Doctor Who. Basically because of a purge in the early 70s, like 71, 72, something like that. Basically, they lost the rights to some episodes. They had to, get rid of some stuff to make space. And just other, issues came up where they don't have everything. But a group that I've talked about before, Doctor Who Recons, has gone back and started doing computer-generated animations for those lost arcs, including the Space Pirates. Unfortunately, I didn't learn about them until I'd gotten into, I think it was either Season 3 or 4. So, some early arcs I missed out on. I think The Top of the World, or The Roof of the World. Basically, one of the history arcs with Marco Polo, as well as the Crusades, I missed out on. But, yeah. I'm here to talk about the Space Pirates. And unfortunately, for the story of the arc itself, it's not a lot to write home about, honestly. The story is, one of the main plot lines that occurs within Doctor Who is, oh no, the crew is separated from the TARDIS and they have to get back to it in order to, get out of this dangerous situation. Well, the situation here is that the crew ended up on a beacon for the world government or the Space Corps, and unfortunately, it was set upon by pirates and was blown up not long after their arrival. Luckily for the Doctor and crew, the pirates were just destroying the beacon to salvage it for parts, and as well as the valuable material that it is made out of, Argonite, I believe. So yeah, so it wasn't like, oh no, space station's gone, TARDIS is gone. It was, hey, we're gonna break it up into smaller pieces so that it's harder to track, and then take it to our base, melt it down, da-da-da, and yeah. It has some interesting drama, the Doctor and crew are trapped in one section. There's limited oxygen, and they have to try some different things to, get back to the part where the TARDIS is, because they were separated. And, yeah, so there's some interesting stuff in that regard, but, the story just, basically just ties back to, oh no, corporate greed, working with, pirates, basically. So it's, honestly, very skippable, but, I do have to give it 1 point. As I said below, it cinches Zoe as the #1 companion in practicality. Now, what I mean by that is, ever since Zoe joined at the end of Season 5, she's shown herself to be very smart and capable and logical, working through some things that, honestly, at times the Doctor hasn't even been able to work through. And we can attribute that to her training for her time on the Wheel in Space, which was sometime in Earth's future, a far ahead, probably 2500s at least. I don't know exactly. But yeah, in this arc, she was, and I'm not even kidding, able to calculate using, I believe it was pure math. Basically, the trajectory of where the pieces of the beacon that they were on were going into after, it was blown up, and, she noted the thrusters and stuff on the other ships and all this stuff. And she did this in spite of the fact that, they didn't have a definite location on where they were in space. She figured something out. The Doctor accidentally launched them in the opposite direction because he was trying to use the electromagnetic link between the pieces of the ship to hopefully bring it together. Unfortunately, the poles were the same, so they repelled each other. So despite that, and some other setbacks, she was able to calculate, oh hey, this is where the piece is going to ultimately end up. Which is, surprise, surprise, the place where they ended up. Because in their part of the ship, they got picked up by this old, I'd say prospector type, basically. You know, an old guy just roaming the stars, salvaging what he can, and all that stuff. And, yeah, he conveniently takes, you know, the crew to this base, which ends up being the smelting plant for the pirates. The logic is, you know, you're supposed to suspect, oh, hey, he's a bad guy. But really, you know, it was just, oh, hey, an old mining operation that he used to run with his, you know, with this other person. And, yeah. So, honestly, like, it has some interesting elements to it. But it's a lot of, you know, we've seen it before, we've gone through it before, so it's more just padding and filler, unfortunately, in my opinion. But again, I do want to send a shout out to Doctor Who Recons. You know, you guys have worked really hard on making, you know, so many episodes. I forget how many it is. I want to say it's at least like 50 or so. Minimum. You know, they've got the audio tracks and they're recreating the scenes with their computer animation. And, you know, it's not 100% accurate to life because that would be very hard and very expensive. But they do a good enough job to where you can at least watch the arcs. And if you've been with me since season 1, one of the big complaints I had back then was that, you know, I couldn't get engaged with, oh, hey, we have the pictures with the audio over it. Because, I mean, it was literally still shots of like, oh, hey, they're, you know, walking up a mountain. Or, oh, hey, they're, you know, in the TARDIS near the console. At least with Doctor Who Recons, we have, you know, some action. Something to keep you visually engaged. You know, kind of like the opposite of what I do. Where I keep you audio engaged. I'm not good at words. Alright. Arc Thoughts. Season 6. 7 of 7. The War Games. Hey everyone, and welcome to the final arc of Season 6 of Doctor Who. It's important because, you know, it is the end of Season 6, but this is also the last arc that Patrick Troughton portrays the second Doctor. You know, until we have the specials like, you know, the 3 Doctors and the 5 Doctors, respectively. But, you know, this was a longer arc. There's a lot to discuss because it was actually 10 episodes. And yeah, so first off, the short version is I would definitely recommend it. You know, it has, you know, like some of the other arcs before it, like the Invasion, you know, it has some good suspense, some good mystery and intrigue that keeps you wondering, like, okay, what's going to happen? As well as every episode has, you know, a good cliffhanger. So I definitely recommend it. But also because, like I'd said, you know, this is Mr. Troughton's final arc. Like, if you want to learn not a lot more backstory, you know, about himself and the Time Lords, but a little bit in, like, the, I think it's episodes, like, 8 and 9. Basically, he talks with one of the villains of the arc, who is also a Time Lord. And how they resolve things is they deal with even more Time Lords. But, anyway, what is the story? Well, the Doctor and crew find themselves, you know, they exit the TARDIS and they find themselves in some strange sort of, like, area. You know, upon walking around, exploring, they find that they're actually in a battlefield. You know, they find barbed wire fences, and unfortunately they start to get blasted at by some unknown group. Eventually they are found and taken into a base camp. And basically, it seems like that they are in Europe during World War I. Basically, you know, it's Okay, I forget who was fighting exactly, but I know Germans and other people were fighting, and yeah. And, they are interrogated because, because the people believe, the soldiers believe them to be, like spies or something, because, 3 random civilians in the middle of a battlefield makes 0 sense, especially in the place known as No Man's Land. Basically, from what I can gather with military stuff, it's like, a large battlefield that gets bombed a lot is covered with, machine gun turrets, and just a bunch of other crap. Whew. Sorry. But, yeah. So the Doctor and crew, basically have to try and get away because spies, spies, as I'm sure you can guess, are probably going to be executed because they're spying on people and giving secrets to the enemy. Just saying. So they have to get away from this group of people. They run across some interesting things along the way, and there's a larger mystery at hand. Basically, the story is that this group who call themselves the Aliens have basically gone through Earth's history and pulled different fighting forces from different wars. So we have World War I, the American Civil War, the Mexican Civil War, back in Roman times even. All these different soldiers, because they're trying to find basically the ultimate human combatants. Because they're trying to make an army to conquer the galaxy. It's some pretty crazy stuff. And yeah. And the way that things go on, there's like a fair amount of mystery to it, where like, hey, that's strange, how the Doctor knows how to work this alien device, and how this device seems similar to the TARDIS in some ways, because unfortunately I already spoiled it, but they end up dealing with one Time Lord at least. And then, in the end, after everything is resolved, the Doctor and crew have to call on, like, other Time Lords, because the task of taking everyone back to their own times is too great for the Doctor, because, as we know, currently he can't really control the TARDIS, and traveling across, time and space with, like, honestly hundreds, if not thousands of different people would be very challenging. Unfortunately, the Doctor has some history with the other Time Lords, in that they don't approve of what he's doing. Basically, the idea is that the Time Lords just observe history and time. And the Doctor, not being content with this idea, decided to go out and try and fix things and make things better. And in calling the Time Lords in to help save the people, the Time Lords were like, hey, since we have you here right now, we're going to put you on trial for what you've done. And yes, trial. For taking the TARDIS and traveling through time and changing history ideally for the better. Stopping the Daleks on Skaro, stopping the Dominators on, God, I forget the name of the stupid planet. Stopping the Yetis and the Great Intelligence, and just so many other groups. In the end, the Time Lord, Council agrees that the Doctor's role is necessary. However, he is still punished for his actions, and he is exiled to Earth. He loses the secrets of time travel, and his appearance is changed because, especially during this season, he's done a lot of stuff on Earth. He worked with Lethbridge Stewart with the Yeti invasion, so they know his name from that. He worked with him again with the invasion with the Cybermen. So again, he's pretty well known on the planet, and that's why he's changed appearances. And yeah. So honestly, this is a very relevant arc. it has so much interesting stuff going on, and it has another regeneration. And, yeah, and then, this is just speculation, but, if I recall correctly, they closed out this season in this fashion because they wanted to leave it open in case, like, oh, hey, the series didn't go on to season 7. So, oh, hey, the Doctor's exiled to Earth, doesn't have the power to time travel, and we don't know what he looks like now. It could mean he's just a normal person. I'm going to double check that and get back to you on that, but yeah. Obviously, the series did go on, of course, but still, it's... Yeah. And... sorry, I seem a bit down about this, but it sucks, Really quick, I just want to say I liked Mr. Troughton as the Doctor. And, now I'm going to take some time off from doing the ARC thoughts after this and get my thoughts together for Mr. Troughton. Because, like with Hartnell, before him, I have to do the month of the second Doctor. So I'm going to talk about the character, the actor, and, have my own personal regeneration arc, because I'm trying to do my best to pay homage to all of them. And it's going to be a rough road ahead. And, carrying all these different stories is cool. It's good to know all this stuff, but it sucks that, like, we had all these good characters and their stories concluded. It's a little upsetting, I guess. But this is what I want to do. I want to share these stories so that, in 20, 30 years, whenever the series is like 80 years old, people can remember, oh, hey, Hartnell was first, Troughton was second. And, yeah. Because I feel like a lot of people, know the current Doctor, know the modern ones. They might know Hartnell because he was in the special, but after that, 2, 3, 4 is well known because of the scarf. 5, 6, 7, 8 might not be as well known. So, yeah. So, this concludes Season 6 of Doctor Who. Stay tuned because I will be doing the Cosplay Enthusiast. I will be doing the other videos later this year. I have to get some prep time. Well, I need some prep time for all of that stuff. So I'm shooting for November 2018 because that is the anniversary of the show. So, yeah. Anyway, everyone, I hope you enjoyed the videos. I will be around with other videos in the intervening time between now and then. But I just wanted to give you that heads up if you're here for Doctor Who only. So, as always, everyone, have fun, stay safe, keep hydrated, and remember, every arc is a story, and every story has a point. I'm Valiant Bradley James. Peace. Alright, hey everyone. Really quick, this is just the scorecard for Season 6. Basically, just doing a quick rundown of, what was worth watching and what was skippable. So, starting at the top, we have the Dominators. Definitely worth a watch, I said, just because of the nice subplot with the idea of, the planet that's found peace, unfortunately being invaded by the Dominators, who are still okay with violence. The Mind Robber, it was a very weird story. It had some similarities to Alice in Wonderland, so worth a watch if you liked the story, but otherwise, you can skip it. So it's not very worth a watch. The Invasion, definitely one of my favorite arcs of the season. It's honestly, it is a story we've seen before. Humans working with the bad guy of the story because, oh hey, I want power and I think I can control them and I'm smarter than them and da-da-da-da-da. But they did it well. It was spread out over, I think it's 6 or 8 episodes, and I just really like the story, so definitely worth a watch in my opinion. They did good on it. The Crotons, skip it. I'm sorry, but 4 episodes, not very interesting story, just, I don't know, it was just a pointless, like, there's no value in it. Sorry to say. The Seeds of Death. I really liked the story. It was good. Definitely not as good as The Invasion was, but I think it works in its own right, and it has another good, iconic villain to work with. So I'd say watch it. The Space Pirates, skippable. Oh no, we are separated from the TARDIS and we have to get back to it. And that's the overall big story. Like, there's a subplot with, corporate greed and stuff like that, but, working with pirates is bad. Go figure. And finally, the War Games. Well worth a watch, because I really enjoyed the story, like the mystery of who's pulling the strings behind this, large-scale battle. And also it wraps up, the Troughton era, as well as the stories of Jamie McCrimmon and Zoe. So, that's my scorecard. 5 out of 7 arcs are worth watching. The 2 circled are not worth watching, in my opinion. Maybe your opinion is different. If you feel like, you know better than me, let me know. But otherwise, as I'd said before, thank you for watching, everyone. I hope you enjoyed the video. I hope you learned a bit more about the classic era. And, yeah. With this said, I'm going to take some time to work on, the Second Doctor videos. So that includes, the story of the actor, the story of the character, and just whatever else comes to mind. So, until next time, everyone, have fun, stay safe, keep hydrated, and remember, every arc is a story, and every story has a point. Peace.